Hi, how you going? It's Sharon here from the Vitality Fit Retreat. A video for you today to share with you, again, some more inspiration, some more tips and ideas to help you understand and navigate your way through your health and fitness journey, and to help you understand a little bit more about why you do what you do. And in particular with this video, there is a big emphasis on understanding why we do some of the things that we do that you almost seem to do automatically, that you do without thinking about it. And that in itself can be really frustrating and confusing at times. And it's about looking at how we can shift some of those behaviors so that you can more easily and more successfully create the results that you want around your health and your well-being. So that's quite a broad intro to this video. Let me give you a little bit more background into why I thought I'd share this video with you and how I came to be inspired to share this with you. So over the weekend, I was chatting to a friend of mine who's become a friend after being a client initially. I used to personal train her many years ago, and I've stayed in touch with her for all these years, even though she's not still a client of mine. I've stayed in touch with her, just checked in to see how she's going, in particular because the last couple of years have been a little bit more challenging for her in that she's had quite a big shift around her career. She's started a whole new career, and she's had a couple of other stresses that have come with that. And as a result, she's finding that she's not taking care of herself as well as she would like to. In fact, when she first stepped into this new role, this new career, she did make a bit of a pact to herself that she was going to exercise more often, that she was going to look after her nutrition a bit more often, and not just for her, but also for her husband and for her family as well. And I spoke to her on Sunday, and she is just absolutely, I guess, overwhelmed, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. I'm sure that she won't. And thank you if you are watching for the inspiration for this video. I know there's going to be lots of other women watching this who are going to thank you for it as well. A little bit overwhelmed by the amount of new information, the amount of new things that she's needing to focus on around her new career. And with all of that, it's creating a bit of chaos in her lifestyle. She doesn't feel like she's got a very good lifestyle balance. And in particular, she really feels like she's just not taking very good care of herself. She's not exercising like she thought that she would be able to. And she's just genuinely not taking enough care of herself. Because she feels like she's having to put work priorities before her own personal priorities, which is completely understandable, particularly when you're stepping into a new career and you want to be successful at it. And in particular for her, she's a high performer and she likes to be successful. And for her, career success is something that comes quite naturally, quite automatically. It doesn't mean that she doesn't need to work at it, like what she's doing at the moment, but for her, her number one drive, her number one passion is to be successful around her career, and then also to make sure that she takes great care of her family. They're her top two priorities. And as you can hear already, where does that leave her own personal care? Now, I'm sure that there are as many women out there, or there are many of you out there who are listening to this who can completely relate. And you may not even be in a new phase of your career. You might be just simply doing your career and finding yourself still overwhelmed by either the workload or the pressure that comes with your job. Maybe you take your work home with you a lot. And if it's not career, then maybe you're finding yourself as a mum, you've got high demands around your family life. Maybe you've got young children. Maybe those children are starting to get a bit more independent, but you've had many years where you've had to be the one that takes care of them. You know, they can't take care of themselves when they're little. And so you've probably found yourself you've gotten into a bit of a habit of putting their priorities before your own, and that's kind of left you with this sense of, well, I'm just not taking good enough care of myself. So once again, thank you to my lovely friend for this inspiration, because there is some really insightful information that I shared with her, because she asked me the question, well, how come this is? How come I can't seem to get myself to a place where I'm taking good care of myself? I really want to. It's certainly not a lack of desire on her behalf. It's something that she really wants to do. She just can't get herself to a place where she does it habitually, where it feels easy, where it feels natural, and obviously, therefore, where it feels good. Because when something feels easy and it happens automatically, that's when it gives us the greatest amount of satisfaction, because it's achievable. Whereas sometimes when we always need to put a great deal of effort into something, initially it can be okay. We can tolerate that level of effort that we need to put in. But at the end of the day, over a long period of time, if it's something that we constantly feel like we need to put a lot of energy into, it can get a bit overwhelming, particularly when another area of our life starts to become more demanding, more stressful, a little bit less consistent, and we need to turn our attention or our focus to that other area of our life. Then always having to put in a lot of effort can be unsustainable, to put it simply. So my answer to her was that, well, it comes right back to our childhood. Now, a lot of people speak about, it's all in your childhood, it happens, but it doesn't have to be that you've had a traumatic childhood. It just simply is that is where we learn all of our beliefs, and therefore we create all of our mental conditioning or our mindset conditioning for the behaviors and strategies that we are going to perform throughout the rest of our life. Now, before I go any further, I just want to let you know that just because you've had a certain level of conditioning or role modeling in a previous part of your life, it doesn't mean that you can't shift that role modeling and that patterning and that conditioning. You can, you just need the strategy to be able to do it. And that's what I'm going to start to highlight to you on how you can start to shift your patterning and your role models, essentially, or what they've imparted upon you. So I said to her, look, it goes back to your childhood, and within those ages of between 2 and 6 or 7, our minds are completely like sponges. We are open and willing to accept all beliefs, all behaviors, all things that we are told that are true in the world. We believe and we accept. And our number one role models in our lives are our mums and our dads. Now, it doesn't matter what sort of, if it's not your biological mum and dad, then it's certainly your guardians, if you like. It's your mother and father figures, if you like. So regardless of what sort of situation you've grown up in, our mother and father role models in our life are where we create all of our patterning and all of our conditioning, all of our beliefs, all of our imprint to set us up with the beliefs and therefore the behaviors that we're going to carry through into our adult life. Now, a bit more specifically, where we tend to get our nurturing role model from is from our mother, and where we tend to get our boundaries and our discipline from is from our father role model. So for this friend of mine that I was talking to, we referenced back to her mother role model because she said that her mother role model didn't provide her. It wasn't a very good role model of how to take care of herself. In fact, she could see in herself exactly what her mum would have done and how she's completely role modeled that. The results that she's getting at the moment are very similar to probably the results that her mum got at a similar stage in her life. So she completely got that. She understood that, yeah, she was role modeling her mum. Now, the other thing to point out here is that it's not her mum's fault, and it's not any of your mother's fault, because at the end of the day, we have a choice to choose what we accept and what we reject. And sure enough, as little children, we are open and willing to accept everything. But you also have a choice as an adult to decide to continue that behavior and that strategy and that role model, or you can choose to change it. And that's possibly where you're at the moment, because you're aware that that role model that has existed for you, that you've been role modeling up until now, just isn't giving you the result that you want, in which case you may decide that you want to change your role model. So typically speaking, we either choose to role model our mother archetype and also our father archetype, but we're going to focus on mother archetype because it's all about nurturing and self-care. We either choose to role model them, exactly and do what they do, or we tend to reject and do the complete opposite of what they did. And this is because we can, as young people, have this awareness that actually I don't want what my mother or my father has got, and in which case I'm going to change it. So if you don't feel like you've role modeled your mother archetype exactly, then maybe you feel like you've actually done the complete opposite. And maybe that is not working for you either. In which case, again, a different role model is something that you may want to consider looking at in order to get a better result. So that was what I shared with her. That made complete sense to her. Now, the reason that this is quite important, and I want you to understand a little bit of the neuroscience behind how this happens, because there are people in the world that do make changes to their behavior, and they do so through using their mindset and through using the power of their mind and the power of their thinking to do so. But I wanted to highlight to you that the way that our brain works is that we have two levels to our mind. We have our conscious mind and we have our unconscious mind. Now, our conscious mind is obviously where we have our conscious thoughts. So when you're specifically thinking or focusing somewhat on something at any particular given moment in time, then that is you using your conscious mind. But the catch is that when you're doing that, you're actually only using about 5% of your mental capacity. Our conscious mind takes up at most 5% of our thinking power. The rest of our 95% of our thinking power comes from our unconscious thought. So the thoughts that you aren't even aware of. So for example, the really obvious one is our breathing, for example. That's a behavior. It's a survival behavior. It's something that we need to do, but it's not something that we need to think about doing. You can choose to think about doing it. You can bring it into your conscious thought to either slow down or increase the pace of your thinking, perhaps when you're exercising, when you need to get a bit more oxygen in, or when you need to relax and you want to go into a meditative state, for example. We can bring our breathing into our conscious thought. But unless we're doing that, our breathing happens unconsciously. And thank goodness, because if we always had to be focusing on our breathing, then we wouldn't get much else done in our lives. So that's just one example. But there are hundreds to thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of strategies that we are running on a consistent basis every single moment of the day that are happening in the background unless we are consciously thinking about it. So this is where some people can get started on a health and fitness kick, and they are really focused and they're really good, particularly in the first couple of weeks. They plan out all their meals, they book in exercise to their diary, they get to all those exercise sessions, they have some recovery time, some me time, they make sure that they're looking after their emotional well-being as well, and they factor in some social catch-ups with friends and a bit of travel and some nice time, and they feel like they're bringing it all together and they're feeling great. And then something might happen. Maybe an incident happens at work. Maybe, they get asked to stay back and to work on a particular project. It demands more of their time. It demands more of their attention. Maybe a crisis occurs. Maybe there's a family health crisis, or maybe they begin studying something, a new course, or they go back to university. Any one of those things can cause us to then have to shift our conscious focus away from that health and fitness plan towards behaviors that help us take care of that other part of our life. And when that happens, when our conscious thought shifts away from health and fitness, we then default back to what our unconscious strategy is. And our unconscious strategy is built upon what our role models have taught us and what we now believe to be true about how to take care of yourself, why you should take care of yourself, how much value you place on your health and your well-being, what it means to be taking care of yourself. And the benefits associated with taking care of yourself. So all of those things, you'll default back to what you've done time and time again for many, 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 many years, ever since you were young. And that's where some people then just fall off the wagon and they find themselves going, oh, what happened? And it seems obvious because some other crisis happened in their life. But what about the people who can have something else come up in their life and yet still manage to take good care of themselves? What happens? What about those people? How do they maintain good health and well-being? Maybe they're not excelling, but they're at least still taking care of themselves, even when a crisis occurs or something happens or they get asked to stay back at work or run a particular project on work or whatever it is. Well, those people are the ones that have that really healthy, resourceful conditioning in their unconscious mind, set based on successful and resourceful role models to create the behaviors that are giving them a great result. And when you can get to that level, when you can find yourself role modeling successful people to create strategies in your unconscious mind where you default back to just eating well and just exercising regularly and drinking enough water and getting your required amount of sleep, at least doing I guess what you would call, I don't want to call it the bare minimum, but it kind of is. When you're defaulting to your unconscious and you've got other things going on in your life, then sometimes it does need to be what we would classify as the bare minimum, but it's still a good quality of self-care routine and a good quality of self-care behavior. And that is what creates consistency, and it's also what gives people motivation and drive to, when things are going well, to then step it up and to know that they're starting from a good, healthy platform, but now suddenly they've got a few more resources, whether it's time or energy, to then maybe train for an event or get a bit stronger or get a bit fitter or get a bit leaner. All of those goals require that little bit more time and energy demand, and people wonder why they can't lose a few kilos or they can't manage to get themselves fit enough to run a fun run when they've got other things going on in their life. And it's because it can be too demanding at times. So I think I've shared with you quite a bit. So you now understand that your mother and father archetypes are your two key role models. And unless you've changed your self-care role model, you are likely role modeling your mother for how well or not well you're taking care of yourself. You have the ability to change that role model and to find successful role models, and to literally step into their shoes and download their beliefs. Now, as a side note, that is exactly what I teach you to do and share with you how to do when you come on the Vitality Fit Retreat. That is just one activity that I give you a big sense of empowerment around, because once you know how to download a successful role model, then you can do that not only for your health and fitness section of your life, you can also do it around your financial well-being, around your career success, around your family relationships, around your intimate relationships, around so many other areas of your life. You find a role model that's got what you want to have in that particular area, and you literally go through the process that I'll teach you on the retreat to download their beliefs, their behaviors, their thinking, and you turn it into thinking that's specific for you, that works for you. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to become them, you make it apply to you. But you take what works for them and you apply it to yourself. So there is a way to change. There is a way to shift your unconscious patterning, your unconscious behaviors, to shift your default so that you can create consistency around feeling good, not just when the going is good, but also when your back's up against the wall or you're focusing on another area of your life. Maybe you want to focus on your career and you want to go for a promotion, but you're scared to do so because you don't want your health and fitness to fall in a heap. And if that's you, then let's look at making sure that you've got a strategy, a default strategy that you can just run automatically in the background around taking care of yourself, whilst also taking that next step in your career. Maybe you want to start a family, and the same applies. How can you make sure that you take care of yourself even when you're in that very new phase of that family life? And trust me, that was one of the biggest considerations that I had when I started my family. I was like, I've got to make sure that I'm still taking care of myself. I don't want to become a mum who's feeling upset with myself for letting myself go. And sure enough, it happens to many, many women. And again, it's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just how it happens, but you can change it. Okay. So I want you to take away from this a sense of inspiration, a sense of motivation, a sense of, yeah, there is hope, that you can start to take better care of yourself, not just because you want to, but because you deserve it. Everyone deserves to feel good within their skin. And that's something that I'm really passionate about sharing with women, to give them strategies that actually work. I'm not into just think positive and everything will all be better. I'm not into that, because it doesn't work for the exact reason that I've just pointed out to you in this video. When the going is great, then that conscious positive thinking is great, because it's a conscious thought process. But what happens when things aren't going so great, or you want to turn your attention somewhere else for a moment? And that is where the key to success and longevity around your results and that lifestyle change actually takes place. So I'm going to leave you with that. I think I've been talking to you long enough. Thank you for listening all the way through. This is all about making you the best that you can be, because you deserve it. Now, if you found this really insightful, really interesting, and you'd like to share it with a friend, with your family, with the world, then please do share this video, and please also get back in touch with me. Send your comments through on this video. Let me know what your thoughts are and how you'd like to apply this information, or maybe just let me know what's going on for you. And I would love to, and very happy to have a chat to you about how we can maybe start to create some better results for you around how good you feel from the inside out. And if you'd like more information about the Vitality Fit Retreat, then all the information you need is on my website. It's www.retreats.upliftingpt, that's P for Paul, T for Tom.com. So retreats.upliftingpt.com. And on that website, you can get lots of information about the retreat. And if you'd like to speak to me personally, then either my phone number's at the top, or you can fill in a contact form with just your name, email, and phone number, and that'll come through to me and I'll get in touch with you. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. I really hope that you've taken some great inspiration from this. Until next time, bye-bye.